What is up, my friends, and a happy Friday to you. We've made it once again to another Friday, gloomy Friday, as I feel like I've been saying a lot lately. But it is a Friday nonetheless, and you are just a couple of hours away from your weekend and enjoying your Mother's Day weekend. So hello to everybody. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here as we talk to you for the next hour here. And of course, our podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. A lot to be excited about for your Philadelphia Phillies, and rightfully so. Winners now of 9 of their last 11. They have won 4 consecutive series. The last time they lost a series was the sweep at the hands of the New York Mets, which feels like it was a long time ago. And it really wasn't. It was only like 2.5 weeks ago. But it feels like it was a long time ago for a multitude of reasons. Seasons changing, weather's getting nicer. The daylight is out later. You know, you're getting closer and closer to summer. And so it feels like it was an eternity ago, and it really wasn't that long ago. But since that time, the Phillies have won series against the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field, by the way, which was a difficult task simply because of the fact that, A, the Cubs are a really good baseball team, have played really well at Wrigley Field, and the Phillies lost game 1. If you remember, they lost that Friday game and had lost 4 in a row, and it felt like things were on the precipice of kind of spiraling out of control a little bit for the Phils. They were sputtering. It was a pretty lifeless series against the Mets. They lose game 1 against the Cubs, and it felt like this thing could get out of hand, fairly quickly. And then the negativity that had crept in from a lot of people would have doubled and tripled and quadrupled and would have felt very, very real very, very quickly. But instead, they win on Saturday and on Sunday. They take the series at Wrigley. They win that series. They come home. They win a series against the Marlins. They win a series against the Nationals. They win a series against the Diamondbacks. And now they have won a series, and not just won a series, but swept out a series against the Tampa Bay Rays. And listen, I understand the Rays are not a particularly good baseball team. It's a team with a good pitching staff, no doubt. Good starting pitching, really good, at least numerical bullpen pitching throughout the beginning portions of the season. If you've heard me talk on this show before, you know that I am a huge Kevin Cash fan. I think that Kevin Cash gets more out of his team than most managers do because of the restrictions that the Rays front office has put on that organization to not spend any money. And they've done a really nice job of cultivating young starting pitching and doing that for a while now, right? It started with Blake Snell. I mean, in fact, you could probably say it started with Scott Kazmir and Matt Garza in the late 2000s. But like as of recent, you could say it was Blake Snell, who they then moved on from. It was Tyler Glasnow, who they then moved on from, who they acquired by trading Chris Archer, who pitched well in Tampa and then was not very good in Pittsburgh, but they get Glasnow in exchange. They make him into a guy who, when he's healthy, is a top of the rotation type of guy. They've done that to him. Drew Rasmussen has done a really nice job as of late. Shane Baz is coming along nicely. They acquire Ryan Pepio in the deal that sends Glasnow to the Dodgers. So a lot of moves that acquire starting pitching that includes Tyler Glasnow. Pepio has good stuff. It's a team that has done a really nice job of cultivating young starting pitching and young pitching depth in general, because their bullpen we talked about was really good heading into this series. Edwin Uceda had the 5th best ERA in the bullpen, and he came in with like a 3.3. They had a bunch of guys within the 2s, a couple guys in the 1s. They had a really good numerical bullpen heading into the series. And the Phillies dispatched them. And quite frankly, 2 of the 3 games weren't competitive. Now, I know the first game, Rasmussen did a nice job. He threw a lot of pitches, but did a nice enough job. And then the bullpen came in and pitched okay. And it was a close game for a while. It was 3-2 after 5 innings. But the Phillies offense busted the thing wide open. And Nick Castellanos 3-run home run, Kyle Schwarber RBI, Trea Turner RBI. They end up winning that game pretty comfortably. They win game 1 by, kind of going away. And then in game 2, they shut the Rays out. They win 7-0. The offense was good once again, and the pitching was excellent. Christopher Sanchez, 6 shutout innings, gave up just 1 hit. Taijuan Walker, who we haven't had a chance to talk about in his first relief appearance this season, goes 3 shutout innings, gets his first career save. He gives up just 1 hit himself. And he's a guy who, has been called upon to be relied upon for most of the season, right? Ranger misses the beginning of the season. Walker fills in nicely. Ranger comes back, Walker slides to the bullpen, gives you 3 really strong innings to help the Phillies win. Now, they were low leverage innings, no doubt. The Phillies had a comfortable lead, and it's why he had to pitch 3 innings to get the save. But he pitched well. He struck out 7 of the 10 hitters he faced. He got 9 outs on 10 hitters. He gave up just the 1 base hit. It was a good performance from him. And then yesterday, the Phillies had already taken the series. The Phillies were up 2-0. They had a chance to sweep a series. Now, the one thing the Phillies have struggled with this year is sweeping series. They've only had done it one time, and it was an opportunity now for them to do it for a 3rd consecutive series after taking the first 2 against the Nationals and not sweeping out the series, and then taking the first 2 against the Diamondbacks and doing the same thing and not sweeping out the series. But they had an opportunity to do it yesterday, and they fall behind. So we're going to talk about Jesus Luzardo in the second segment of today's show, but the Phillies fall behind early, in part because Luzardo struggled, but he only ended up giving up 2 runs. Tanner Banks, who I raved about on Wednesday, of course, comes back to bite me because I gave him an entire segment to say this guy's been much better than I thought he's been this year. He comes in, serves up a 3-run homer to Yandy Diaz. The Rays are up 5-1, and it could have very easily. Now, I know that the guys talked about this on the post-game show. John Marks and I talked about this morning. The Phillies were going to get on a plane after last night's game and head to Cleveland to take on a Guardians team who's playing decent ball right now. There's the exact same record as the Phillies at 22-15. They could have very well said, it's 5-1. This game sucks. We'll pack it in. We're going to go low leverage relievers, and Yandy Diaz hits the home run, and that's enough for today. We won the series. We did what we needed to do. We went to Tampa. We took 2 of 3. We're stacking series now. It's our 4th consecutive series win. They could have packed this thing up and gone home, and I don't think anybody would have blamed them because they had done what they were supposed to do. They were really good in the first 2 series, and they did exactly what they needed to do by winning another series and now getting up to 6 games over 500. But instead, the Phillies mount a pretty improbable comeback and look really competitive doing it. They did it in a multitude of different ways. Last night, the Phillies put together runs on a 3-run home run by Bryson Stott, which of course was kind of the catalyst to the whole thing. But it wasn't just the 3-run home run that made this, a competitive game, right? Because then they go into the 9th, they're still trailing. So they go into the 9th down, 5-4 at the time. And they do exactly what they need to do, which is scratch out a run. Kyle Schwarber with a leadoff base hit to start the game. And the one thing, too, before we even dive into what transpired in the series, in that inning, I have to give Rob Thompson a little bit of credit. We have given Rob Thompson a lot of crap this year for his bullpen usage. Not entirely his fault, but he hasn't made a ton of great decisions at times. The cards that he's been dealt haven't been particularly strong, but sometimes I think you call into question his bullpen usage this season. The other thing that we call into question is he too reliant on the analytics and the numbers and the lefty-righty thing? Like, at some point, are you just going to let Bryson Stott face a left-handed pitcher? At some point, are you going to let Johan Rojas go up against the righty, which he did on Wednesday night, facing Shane Baz because he had faced him before? And there's been, people that have said, he's got to be better. And I don't think he's been terrible, but I do think there's been a couple of questionable decisions. And last night, Rob Thompson pulled all the right punches in terms of he was willing to empty out his bench. And I am not a huge proponent of saying throw caution to the wind and empty out your bench. But when you're trying to win a game, sometimes you have to do it. It's something you would do in the postseason. It's something you would do in September. In the, trying to win a division or be a wild card team. Those are the kind of things that you would do in crunch time, in the dog days of summer and into the postseason run. He did it in a May game yesterday because he felt like this team could win the game. And in part, it helped them do exactly that. So Kyle Schwarber leads off the 9th with a base hit. He immediately turns to Johan Rojas to pinch hit. Or pinch run, excuse me. It's obviously the right decision. Schwarber is not fleet of foot. You pair the Pirates of the Caribbean music with them, round and second, and it becomes not as bad as Pete Alonso, but pretty darn close. So Johan Rojas pinch runs. And with Johan Rojas, the thing I've always asked about Johan Rojas is to give me a baseline offensive performance of, can you be like a 250 hitter? Because he's never going to be a high on base percentage guy because of the fact that he isn't a feared hitter. So he's not going to be the guy that walks a ton. Like, I think about Ben Revere a lot, and I've said this before. Ben Revere was a better hitter than Johan Rojas. Now, Johan Rojas has had a really good start to the year, close to 300. I'm not sure if he's still up at 300, but he's been at or above 300 for a pretty sizable stretch of the second half of April and into the month of May. He's been very good so far. I really can't. And he's had some really boneheaded decisions in the outfield. And I know he got benched about a week ago for what was a base running blunder, even though he was safe at third, but it could have been the final out of the game. But I think Johan Rojas has been a net neutral, if not a slight net positive. But the thing I've always said about him is if he can be a baseline like 250 hitter, cause havoc on the base pass, and play good defense, that is plenty enough for me as your 9-hole hitting center fielder. Because he's going to be an impact on the bases like he was last night. He's going to be an impact in the outfield, assuming he doesn't make the silly mental mistakes, because physically he has all of the tools to make all of the plays. But if he can just do those three things, there's a spot in the lineup for Johan Rojas. I don't know if it's 6 nights a week, but I think it's probably closer to like a 4 than it is to a 2. But the point is, so he gets on, he pinch runs last night. He doesn't start, he pinch runs. And Pete Fairbanks has to think about him. He's the tying run, and Pete Fairbanks has to think about him. And so he throws over the first time, dives back safe. Throws over a second time, and Fairbanks skips the throw. It ends up caroming off the right field wall. And not only does Johan Rojas get the second, and by the way, you got to talk about speed, because Johan Rojas dove back and didn't get up right away. He kind of was waiting to see where the throw was, because obviously you don't want to pull your hand off the bag if the first baseman still has the ball, because then obviously you're just picked off. So he has to wait to see where the ball goes. It shoots off the wall. Paco Figueroa tells him, get up and go. And not only does he get to second, but he goes all the way to third. So he goes from first to third on an errant pickoff throw that ends up being substantial, because he's now 90 feet away as the tying run with nobody out. Nick Castellanos then walks. And I'm looking at the win probability percentage chart. So before the inning started, the Phillies had a 15.8% chance of winning the game. After the Kyle Schwarber single, it was 27%. By the time Nick Castellanos walked, it had jumped to almost 54%. So then Max Kepler comes up. And Max Kepler is a guy that I'm going to talk a little bit more about in the later stages of today's show. But I have given Max Kepler a lot of praise, and I'm going to do it again today, because he has just put together professional at-bats as of late. So had a little bit of a dip in the beginning portions of April, really struggled against lefties, but his at-bats have been really good. And he was kind of a victim of the Alec Bohm, Bryce Harper thing, where those guys numerically weren't hitting particularly well, but were hitting the ball hard. Kepler's bounced out of that now, and he's starting to find some soft spots in the, in the outfield, or the bloop base hits are kind of swinging the pendulum back from where the hard hit lineouts were, where the hard hit ground ball outs were earlier in the season. So he puts together a nice at bat, ends up finding, getting just enough on the ground ball that he hits to pull Taylor Walls back towards the second base bag. No throw is going to beat Johan Rojas at that point, and the Phillies tie the game. So a base hit, manufacturing runs on the base pass, and then a simple force out, a simple fielder's choice ground out ends up plating the tying run. Now the Phillies don't score again. It would have been nice to see the Phillies score again, but they didn't score again. And so they do what they need to do to push this game into extra innings. And then obviously in the bottom of the ninth, the Phillies shut down. Alvarado shuts the Rays down 1-2-3. Walls steals first. Walls gets a base hit, tries to steal second, strike him out, throw him out. Yandy Diaz strikes out. Taylor Walls is caught stealing. Perfect execution by JT Realmuto. And then Brandon Lau pops up, and that's the end of the inning. So we go to the extra inning frame, and this is where more of the manufacturing runs takes place. Brandon Marsh, who I have to tip my cap to since returning from the IL, is 6 for 11 and has looked like a much better hitter in his small sample size, doubles to start the inning. So immediately the ghost runner, Edmundo Sosa, who pinch runs for Alec Bohm because Alec Bohm was the final out. Again, talking about emptying the bench to get the best result. Rob Thompson turns to Edmundo Sosa, who's going to end up going to play third in the bottom half of the 10th. Brandon Marsh doubles him in, first pitch, boom. Phils take the lead just like that. But it's not just the double that does it. Bryson Stott comes up with Brandon Marsh on second and nobody out and executes a perfect sacrifice bunt. Small ball bunts win games. I'm a proponent of it forever. I will scream it from the rooftops. Bunting has a place in Major League Baseball still. So Bryson Stott sacrifice bunts, moves Marsh over to third. Boom, Trea Turner base hit, drives Brandon Marsh in, and that's enough to win the game. Now the Rays score 1 in the 9th, but Matt Strahm nails this thing down in the bottom of the 10th, and the Phillies win the game. And I gave you that rundown for a couple of reasons. The first was it was a really exciting game. I mean, it was a fun watch to watch this team battle for the second time in a week, battle down from a sizable run differential to win the game, or to force extra innings, and this time win the game. Right? They did it on Sunday against the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks are up 7-1. They tie the game up. And John Kruk says on the broadcast, right, we didn't come all this way just to come this way. And unfortunately, they did come all that way just to come that way because they lost in the 10th inning. The Phillies last night took advantage of the situation, scored 2 in the top half of the 10th, and end up winning the game. In a situation, by the way, and I've said this for a while, that the extra inning rules with the ghost runner on second now give the home team such an advantage, especially if they're able to hold the away team off the scoreboard in the top half of the 10th. Because if you're able to hold the away team off the scoreboard in the top half of the 10th, everybody on planet Earth knows all you're trying to do is move your ghost runner over to third and have a runner on third with less than 2 outs. Sac fly wins a game. Base hit wins a game. Pass ball wins a game. Balk wins a game. The point being is you've got a distinct advantage at that point to try to win the game. So the Phillies scoring 2 was really paramount to the success of yesterday's game, because if they only get 1, the Rays then can still play the small ball, right? They still can do what they need to do because they're only playing for a tie. You're not playing for the win in the top half of the 10th. You're playing for an 11th inning. So you move that runner over and you do the same exact situation you would if this was a tie ball game. So to get the second run was really critical to the success of last night's game. So a really fun win for the Phillies yesterday. And I said I was going through the win probability. They had a 3.2% chance of winning heading into the top of the 8th. Max Kepler leads off the 8th with a ground out. That number dropped to 2%. And even after the Bryson Stott 3-run home run, it was only 12.9% at the end of the top of the 8th. The Phillies win a game last night that maybe numerically, odds-wise, they probably shouldn't. And it's a really, really good win. I think probably in terms of fight, in terms of grit, in terms of determination, might be one of the best wins, if not the best wins of the season. And I know I've said this before. The Rays aren't a very good baseball team. I'd love to see the Phillies do this and win the game like they did. If they'd have beaten the Diamondbacks, I would have said that's even more improbable, an even better win. But this is a really, really good win last night. All right, let's pause for just a moment. On the other side, we're going to talk about Jesus Luzardo's start. Didn't think he was good. Didn't think he was great last night. Command had some issues, but he was able to keep the Phillies in the game. We're going to talk about that. We'll preview the Guardians series. And then I want to talk about one player who's a really, really good player in Major League Baseball, but he just continues to say the wrong thing and not help his team out. We'll talk about that to end the show. And by the way, to my buddies back there at the PHLY studios, who I can clearly see at the bottom of the screen making faces at me, who are not in the shot, Joey and Andrew, I see you guys. I'm just letting you know. Nobody else can see you, but I see you guys. All right, let's pause for just a moment and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, Parx Casino, my hometown casino of choice. I've been telling you about that for a while. And not just because it's an ad read and not just because they're a sponsor. It's because I have lived and grown up and moved back to and started my own family in Bensalem. And that's exactly where Parx Casino is located. It is right off the street road exit of I-95, the street road exit of the Turnpike. You can get there in just moments. I'm telling you, I could do this ad read, hop in my car, and be there before you heard the end of this ad read. That's how close I am to Parx Casino. And if you're looking for an incredible night out, I can't recommend the Excite Center enough, where you're going to see incredible concerts, comedy acts, boxing, and MMA have been there as well. So it's an awesome all-inclusive place where you're going to get the best seating options possible. And again, with that Excite Center, it's a smaller venue, but they make it feel large because every seat is a great seat. The lighting and the production is off the charts good. And as I said, you're going to be able to see just about any kind of act that you're looking for. It is named one of the best places to see the country's best comedians and music headliners. The Excite Center is the state-of-the-art entertainment venue located inside Parx Casino. But it's not just about going to the Excite Center. How about grabbing a bite to eat before you do that? Head on over and check out the Bamboo Noodle House, which is one of my favorite places in Bensalem to grab a bite to eat. Every time I'm at Parx, I head on over to the Bamboo Noodle House to grab a bite to eat. But it's the gastropub, it's the outdoor beer garden, it's all of the places that you want to grab a bite to eat, a beverage, whatever the case may be. You can do that at Parx Casino. So visit parxcasino.com to buy tickets for all of the shows to the Excite Center. You can pregame the shows, as I said, at the amazing beer garden, and you can play all of the incredible pop culture slots, play roulettes, cards, other table games that you love while you wait. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21 and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Shady Rays. Talk about two places I endorse all the time. I already said Parx is my place, and Shady Rays is my sunglass company. And it's why 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars online, because they give you incredible, durable frames, polarized, crystal clear optical lenses, and every style that you could possibly think and possibly want, you're going to be able to purchase. I've said this before. I go for the more traditional sporty look, the one that you see baseball players wear a ton. No surprise, right? I love those the sleeker frames with the cutouts at the bottom for the lenses, just the top holding them in. I think they look great. They're incredible for both playing a game and just taking on your outdoor adventure. But it doesn't have to be just that pair. As you see in our little promo down there, you can buy a traditional pair with the wood frames. Those are so crisp. And then you can do a pair of aviators, whatever pair of sunglasses you're looking for. Shady Rays has you covered. And the best part about Shady Rays is they have the best protection plan in all of eyewear. Every pair that you buy is backed by a lost or broken replacement guarantee. And if you don't love the pair of sunglasses that you buy, you can return or exchange them worry-free for up to 30 days. So PHLY listeners and users, head on over to shadyrays.com and use the code PHLY for 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses, and find out for yourself why I've been wearing them for a while. And 300,000 people have also said they are the best pair of sunglasses in all of eyewear and rated Shady Rays 5 stars. So again, code PHLY at checkout gets you 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast here. Tyler Zulli with you for the next 35 minutes or so. And of course, our PHLY Phillies podcast is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Yeah, nothing but a bunch of rascals back there at the PHLY studios, but doing great work. Andrew and Joey have done an excellent job for the PHLY Phillies podcast, along with Bree and Brenna and Julia and everybody that has helped out. Chris Frezza. Everybody's done an excellent job helping me with this undertask since we've started it once again. Wanted to say hello to everybody in the chat, because I know it's been a pretty lively chat so far. Hello to K-Red, Ray Schumacher, Peeling Onions. Is that you? Really? Is that you, John Kruk? I see you. You hiding under an alias. I see you back there. How about anybody else we've got? We had Kamel earlier, Problematic Posts. Daniel Berry, Molly and Barkley's Life. Everybody, hello to you. Thank you so much for checking us out. All right, wanted to talk to you next about Jesus Luzardo's start yesterday, because as I said, I thought it was good. I don't think he was great yesterday. I think he really battled himself. He really fought his command. He really fought his grips. I think he really fought his release points yesterday. And it was an okay start. And the funny thing is, it was an okay start by Jesus Luzardo standards, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But I think there's a couple of things that made it just an okay start. I think the first thing was the command just wasn't particularly strong, and it's why he ended up running a ton of deep counts. Through 105 pitches to get through 5 1/3, gets 16 outs, ends up giving up 6 hits, walked 2, but he gives up just the 2 earned runs. And so he kept the Phillies in the game when they needed him most because the offense after the first inning really wasn't very successful. So it was up to Luzardo, even battling himself, to have a better game than I think he really was capable of putting together. And he did that. He kept the Phillies in the game when it mattered most. And I think it was a impressive start because of that nature. So as I said, he threw 105 pitches over 5 1/3. He saw a ton of deep counts that really ran that pitch count up. Multiple innings in which he threw 20 or more pitches. It felt last night to me like for the first time this year. Now, Jesus Luzardo has always been a guy who throws a lot of pitches to get through 5 or to get through 6. That's not unexpected. But it felt last night that he was like exceptionally laboring. It just really wasn't the sharpest night for him. Velocity was down a shade for pretty much every one of his pitches. And they really just didn't have the same bite that he's had over the last couple of starts. He's been so darn good this year. Like that to me is without question the best acquisition that the Phillies have made so far this year is getting Jesus Luzardo for Starlin Caba and Marion Boyd. I'm not going to get down to that trade again. I've done it a bunch, but like it right now on the surface, obviously those two guys are young. They're minor leaguers. Starlin Caba, I think, just turned 20. Boyd's not much older. Time will tell if those two guys are actually major league players. And if I was to bank on it, I would say I would think Caba has the better chance than Boyd just because the glove is so darn good. But at least for this year and next year, and hopefully when that contract extension, like I cannot wait to see the notification I get on my phone, and whether it be from the Phillies themselves or Mark Feinsand or Ken Rosenthal or Jason Stark, whoever it might be. I can't wait to get the notification. I hope it happens sometime soon, but if it doesn't, maybe this offseason or into the first portion of next year, that said the Phillies have re-signed Jesus Luzardo to a 5-year contract extension worth $100 and fill in the blank $1 million. He's been that good. Recovering from the injury that really plagued him last year, he seems like he has no fatigue. He seems like he has no problems. He's done a really nice job so far. So let's talk about last night and kind of what specifically made me feel like it wasn't the greatest of starts for him, but I give him credit for battling through it. I think the sweeper specifically really, really fought him last night. And he threw that pitch 40 times, which was the most of any pitches that he threw last night. And I think just like by looking at it, the eye test tells you he either wasn't pulling down enough or he wasn't finding quite the right release point. He's not a guy that has a lot of extension, right? So when you talk about the extension down the mound, he's always in like the bottom 10 percentile. He doesn't get that long stride that you see a Zach Wheeler put together or that Christopher Sanchez does. I've talked about Bailey Ober from the Twins, who's always in that 99 percentile. Probably helps that he's 6'10" and Luzardo is not. But you get my point. He's not a guy who gets a lot of extension. So when he's missing short or he's not pulling down enough on that breaking ball, I almost feel like he's getting even less extension, which is almost really hard to do for a guy who's in that bottom 10 percentile more times than not. But I really think he was just fighting himself yesterday. I don't know if the mound was as bad as what the base paths looked like, but the base paths looked awful. Like if you remember, Curtis Mead tried to steal second last night, and it looked like he just got like caught in a spider web. He dove and tried to slide and just went nowhere, and then just ended up laying like face first in the dirt. He tried to almost like army crawl to the bag and was out by a ton. But so I don't know if the mound was giving him trouble. It didn't look like it was very well manicured, but it's not a complaint that I can make. I think the sweeper last night was the one that really just had less bite to it than normal. It felt like it had a little bit more of that humpback feel as opposed to the sharp, like poignant break that he normally gets on it. And I think the one thing he really tried to do, especially to the right-handed hitters, was throw that pitch for strikes. And he wasn't getting it to break back over the heart of the plate. He was trying to use it as a backdoor breaking ball to the right-handed hitters in the Rays lineup. And he was really kind of like looping the plate. I think he was more wrapping the plate than actually throwing it for strikes. He was getting frustrated. And I'm not going to entirely blame the umpire for last night. I don't think the umpire behind the plate was great, but I thought he was consistent on the outer edge. Now, you want to talk about fastballs down in the zone, totally different story, because I thought he was really quite awful in terms of like JT Realmuto had a pitch that he saw that was called a strike, and then the next at bat was not ruled a strike, or maybe it was inverse, one of the two. Maybe it was Bohm saw a strike and Realmuto didn't. I forget exactly what it was, but the bottom portion of the zone gave him trouble. On the outer edge, especially on the left side of the plate, the inside part of the plate, the lefties, and the outer edge to righties, I thought Ryan Willis did a pretty good job last night. And JT and both JT and Luzardo were getting frustrated, and quite frankly, I don't think they had a right to, because he really was wrapping the plate quite a bit with his breaking ball, and he wasn't throwing it for a ton of strikes. Now, he did generate 7 whiffs on the 13 swings that he got. So when he was getting batters to swing at it, he was getting them to swing over top of it, but it just didn't have the same success rate as he normally does. And last night, he only threw 51% of his pitches in the zone. So his strike rate was down pretty significantly. And it's kind of strange, when I looked at that 51%, I would have said, yeah, I feel like he didn't throw a ton of strikes. He threw a lot of pitches. He probably fell behind quite a bit, right? Actually, no. He started 21 hitters faced at least 2 pitches. So he had 2 batters that put the first ball in play. So we're going to exclude them from the conversation. But 21 batters faced at least more than 1 pitch last night. And Jesus Luzardo got ahead on 17 of those 21 hitters. He was throwing first pitch strike a lot last night, which is surprising, again, considering the fact that he threw 105 pitches and only got 16 outs. The problem was, after strike one, 10 of those 17 hitters that got strike one ended up seeing at least 5 pitches in their plate appearance. So he was doing a nice job of getting ahead, but he wasn't staying ahead, and he wasn't ending the at-bats quickly. Now, give the Rays credit. I think they did a really nice job of grinding out at-bats even when they fell behind. But last night was a situation where I think when Luzardo's on, you're going to see those plate appearances be more like 3 and 4 pitches, as opposed to the 5 or 6. He had a couple of 9s last night. The Rays made him work. And so kudos to them. Tip of the cap to them. They made Luzardo work last night. But I think he didn't help himself by not being able to have that out pitch, that put away pitch that he's had in times past. And I think it's due in part, or it's part of the reason as to why his strikeout rate was a little bit down compared to what we've seen over some of the starts when he's really on and he's racking up 7, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts, over the course of the season. So all of that to say, it wasn't a particularly awesome start for Jesus Luzardo last night. But if this is a bad start, and it's funny, peeling onions, this is exactly like you must be reading my notes, because this is exactly where my notes are. And I literally put it in quotations. If this is a bad start for Jesus Luzardo, sign me up right this second for a contract extension, because it's a bad start. He pitched into the 6th. Despite not having his best stuff, he kept the Rays off balance when they needed to most. He gave the Phillies a chance to win when they needed him most. And he pitched into the 6th inning despite not having his best stuff. If that's the case, this is going to continue to be a special year for Jesus Luzardo. His ERA rose to 2.11 last night. He's now all the way back to 10th amongst qualified starters in terms of ERA. His walk rate is near a career low. He's throwing more first pitch strikes. And again, 17 of 21 batters that saw more than 1 pitch saw first pitch strikes. He's throwing more first pitch strikes than any time in his career. His chase rate's at a near career high. And I think that's probably a big proponent of that is the fact that he's setting up strike one more frequently, and the addition of the sweeper that we just talked about, that he's getting whiffs on at about almost 50% at 47%. I think those two things play over the top. Put him over the top, as to why he's been so good this year. And yeah, like his ERA rose all the way to 2.1. Like, you're not going to pitch a 1.7 throughout the entirety of the career, or the entirety of your season, right? You're not Bob Gibson. You're not Pedro Martinez. You're not Randy Johnson. You're at 2.1. You're into your 8th start now, and you're at 2.1. He has been excellent. And then Brian C's comment there is the final part of Jesus Luzardo's start last night. Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez has struggled this year. There is no question about it. He had given up runs, I believe, in like 7 of his 11 appearances or something along those lines the last time I checked. He struggled this year. But Jesus Luzardo left the game in the sixth with a couple of inherited runners on the base paths and a chance. Now, granted, it ended up being a moot point anyway because the Rays struck for 3 the next inning, but a chance to really break this thing open. And Carlos Hernandez came into a spot that was a difficult spot for him. And he struck out not one, but 2 hitters consecutively to end the inning. So you have to give credit to Hernandez there last night. So, yeah, good comment by you, Brian, as well. You're right. I mean, it was a necessary outing from him when the Phillies needed it most. Again, overall, great win. And if this is what bad looks like from Jesus Luzardo, sign me up for that extension right this second. All right, we're going to pause for just a moment and tell you about some more of our friends here at PHLY. When we come back, I do want to talk about, and somebody brought it up in the chat. I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. I do want to talk about Andrew Painter's Lehigh Valley debut. And then if we have time, again, want to talk about one player, not in Philly, who's a really, really good player that just continues to say the wrong things at the wrong time. We'll talk about that to end the show. We'll do that on the other side as we tell you about some of our friends right here at PHLY. All right, how about the presenting sponsor of today's show, our friends at Bet365? Because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And it's why over 900,000 users worldwide have given you the green light to get in on Bet365, especially if you want to get in on in-game betting, because Bet365 is the pioneer of live in-game betting. They feature 780,000 live streamed events each and every year. And it's not just your typical, 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, maybe some college sports thrown in. No, you can live stream and live bet over 72 different sporting types. It's across the board. You're going to get an opportunity to get in on those live bets because the lines change all the time. Let's talk about last night's game, for example. Your hometown team was down 5-1 in the 8th inning. I bet you if you would have gotten in on the money line on that one, you would have gotten a pretty significant payout from your hometown baseball team after they get back to extras and win the game 7-6. So you can live in-game bet any game, and it's not just the money line. It could be next at bat. It could be in-game bets to say, does a player record a hit? You see it on the broadcast all the time. Does a particular player record a hit? You can live in-game bet all of the time with Bet365. And how about this? New users sign up right now, and you will get $150 back in bonus bets, win or lose your first bet. So what you're going to do is head on over to Bet365. You can scan the QR code right there at the bottom of your screen. Head on over to Bet365, create an account, and deposit just $5. Deposit $10 and just bet $5. And win or lose, you're going to get $150 back in bonus bets no matter what happens on your bet. You can use those bonus bets to use in futures, in spreads, in totals, money lines, player props, everything that you want to get your hands on at Bet365. You can do it with that bonus bet money. So head on over to Bet365, use the promo code PHLY365 and get $150 in bonus bets when you spend just $5. Of course, terms and conditions do apply. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. How about our friends at GLAT Hair Restoration? You hear me most mornings. If you listen on the mornings, I appreciate if you do. Hang on out with Johnny Marks. And John is the biggest proponent of GLAT Hair Restoration because he is a testament to the work that they do. But the best thing about GLAT, no matter what your hair situation is, receding, gone, balding, whatever it might be, they are going to treat you like a one-of-one. Not just a number. They're going to treat you like a person. They want you to feel like this is a personalized treatment plan for you. And they're not just going to say, hair restoration, get out of our face. You have a ton of different options, and they're going to walk you through from a personalized consultation through your treatment. Maybe it is hair restoration, but maybe it's just some simpler, lesser treatment plans involving whatever it may be. And then they're going to continue to work with you as the process unfolds. So they're going to be with you every step of the way because hair restoration is all they do. And they want to make sure that you feel as confident and comfortable with your hair as you possibly can. So whether it's keeping the hair you have or regrowing the hair that you've lost, GLAT Hair Restoration is the place to head on over for the results that you're looking for. And again, John Marks is proof that they work. His hair looks excellent. And we've shown you the before and after pictures. They are pretty stark. So all you have to do is head on over to glathairmm.com or call 610-980-4000. You can text them as well to get started on your personalized hair treatment so you can defend your hairline today at GLAT Hair MM or 610-980-4000 to get started. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. And pardon me for 1 second. Welcome back. Sorry about that. Needed a drink of water real quick. All right, let's talk about Andrew Painter for just a second. And Andrew Painter is the prophecy, right? He is the calling card to the future of this Phillies rotation. He is the chosen one of this Phillies rotation. And the expectations of a 21-year-old kid, and have been the expectations of him since he's been 19 years old and even prior to the Tommy John surgery, are through the roof. And rightfully so. This kid is legit. And everywhere he goes, his strikeout numbers are high. His stuff is nasty. Even coming back from the Tommy John, you saw him in the Arizona Fall League this past year, was dominant. You saw him in Clearwater, gave up some runs, gave up some hits, but the strikeout rate was through the roof. He wasn't walking hitters either. And I think that that's something that, we've talked about it with Mick Abel in the past. We've talked about it with Griff McGarry in the past. We've talked about it with a lot of prospects. Good stuff. Command of the strike zone is just not there just yet. Andrew Painter's got that command of the strike zone. And so the expectations for this kid with a heavy power fastball and a wipeout slider are pretty high. And so far, I think that he has checked off every box that you're asking him to do. And so he makes his AAA debut last night with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. He goes 3 innings. Strikeout rates were good once again. He threw 60 pitches. 60 pitches in his last start in Clearwater over 4 innings. Last night goes 3 innings, strikes out a couple of batters with runners in scoring position, walks a couple, gets the bases loaded, gets into a jam, and strikes out, ends up striking out 2 hitters to get out of the jam. This kid is going to be excellent. And I know I'm putting a lot of stock into a 21-year-old kid who has never pitched at the major league level and has made exactly 1 appearance at AAA. But a power fastball averaging 98, touching 99 and 100, a wipeout slider, and just the intangibles to boot. I can't say enough good things about my expectations and what I think the match of the expectations has been for the most part for Andrew Painter. Last night topped out at 98. And again, I do apologize. It was 60 pitches last night. 1 hit allowed, as we said, the 3 walks, but 5 strikeouts. Of the 60 pitches, he threw 34 strikes, which is lower for him than normal, but that probably is in large part to the 3 walks that he issued. But his arm slot is really good. He gets good extension down the mound. He hides the ball well. Like, I'm just watching an overlay from the pitching ninja Rob Freeman, and it's a hide the ball. It's an effortless delivery out of the stretch. It's not a lot of wasted movement. I mean, I've said this a ton already, but like, I expect the world from this kid. And is that fair to him? Probably not. But this is the first time the Phillies have had a legitimate top prospect since Dominic Brown. I don't want to go all the way, but maybe and as a pitching prospect since Cole Hamels. But I think as a prospect in general, probably since Dominic Brown. Like, you've had some players come through the ranks that have been really good players, were high draft picks and have been contributing members to the Phillies. Alec Bohm, 3rd overall pick, contributing member to the team. Bryson Stott, I think he was in the 20s, but a 1st-round pick, contributing member to the team. We have been faced with a Phillies team that had its farm system pretty much gutted when it went all in the 2008 to 2011 run. And I get why they did it, right? I'm a big proponent of proven over prospect every single day of the week. And so they did that for a reason. They were trying to win not just a World Series, but multiple World Series. And it leaves your farm system pretty depleted. So then when that run ended, the Phillies did their best to accumulate a lot of prospects by trading guys like Jimmy Rollins, trading Chase Utley, trading Cole Hamels, trading Hunter Pence. And the unfortunate part about all of that was a lot of it didn't work out. Now, you got like a Vince Velasquez, who was a flash in the pan. You ended up getting Nick Pivetta, who has had better success post-Phillies than he did pre-Phillies. Zach Eflin was probably maybe one of your best acquisitions, who took a while to develop, became an integral part of the World Series run, and now has gone on. He signed a big deal with the Rays, got traded to the Orioles. The Orioles pitching staff has really struggled as a collective unit, but has had a good major league career. But they didn't get any of the guys that they were hoping to be the stalwarts, the staples of their future, right? Because Velasquez flamed out. Pivetta wasn't what you expected. And then you have internal guys, right, too. Scott Kingery signs the big deal before really playing any major league ball, forgets how to hit. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it, just like forgets how to hit a baseball. Now, I fully believe that Gabe Kapler and his staff screwed up Scott Kingery entirely. They had him drop his back shoulder. They went to a lot of launch angle. I almost cursed. Went to a lot of launch angle crap and, basically kind of screwed his swing into the ground, and he was never the same player. But even the internal guys, Mickey Moniak, the number 1 overall pick, major league player, but was not the staple center fielder that you were hoping that he would be. So the Phillies tried between high draft picks and, making those trades. Nothing really came of it. Over the last couple of years, as I said, Bohm and Stott have been contributors to this team. Aaron Nola was a first-round pick who's been with the team for a decade now. That was a successful pick. No matter how you feel about Aaron Nola, to get a 10-year starter out of a first-round pick is nothing short of incredible. So you get Aaron Nola. But now, as of late, the Phillies have a bunch of guys that they have drafted in the first couple of rounds that feel like they are on trajectory to be major league players. Andrew Painter headlines it, of course. Mick Abel has turned his career around seemingly in AAA this season. I talked a lot about it, it was 2 days ago or 4 days ago. I forget which podcast it was. That I gave up on Mick Abel, and it wasn't fair to him, a young kid, but I thought the command was never going to be there that you needed it to be. Mick Abel ended up being the guy that, it may end up being a guy who pitches in the majors of this year. He's been much better this season with his command. His stuff was always good, but you had Mick Abel as a first-round pick. Justin Crawford is knocking on the doorstep of potentially being your future major league center fielder or left fielder. And then you've got some guys in the lower ranks. If you've listened to me for any extended period of time, you know who my favorite prospect is in this entire prospect pool that the Phillies have. It's Eduardo Tait, the power-hitting catcher now in Clearwater. 19 years old. The kid just looks to me like he profiles as a major league hitter. I don't know if he's an everyday catcher. I don't know if he's more of a DH type of player, but I think to me he profiles as a major league hitter. So Tait to me is like my not all time, but my favorite prospect of this current group. And then you've got some dudes in the lower rankings that they've drafted over the last couple of years, Burkholder and Nori, who they seem to really like. They felt comfortable enough to move Starlin Caba because they feel like they have depth. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention Aiden Miller, who is probably everyday infielder in 2027, I think is a fair assessment. Maybe 2027 if he continues on the right trajectory. But like this, to round this all up, this is the first time in quite some time that I felt pretty good about the Phillies minor league system. And listen, they're still ranked like 15th or 16th. And in fact, I'm going to go find it for you right now. But it's still not high, right? They're not in the top 10 or anything like that. But for a team that has consistently been 24, 26, to be now in the teens as opposed to the back end of the 20s is a pretty good step in the right direction. And I'm excuse me, as I'm trying to scroll to find you the exact answer. They're ranked 17th now. They were 23rd at the midseason mark in 2023. They were 22nd in the preseason mark in 2024. They're now up to 17. They're heading in the right direction. Because there was a while where I said, if you ask me who are two of the worst farm systems in all of baseball, I would tell you it was the LA Angels, who have continually just been awful farm system and awful at cultivating young talent, and the Phillies, who were just dreadful. They were the Phillies got lapped in the late 2010s by a Braves organization that got caught with a monetary scandal and ended up losing their top prospect in Kevin Maton, who, by the way, never ended up being a big league player, and losing a ton of international signing pool money over the course of a 5-year stretch. And they got lapped by the Phillies got lapped by that team. So to have an organization now where they're in the high teens, but it feels like they're in the best spot they've been in a really, really long time. So to me, this is the first time in a while where it feels like the future can be bright while there's still a window to win right now. All right, one final time, we're going to pause for just a second. On the other side, I do want to tell you about that player I was alluding to, and then we'll give you a quick wrap up or a preview of the Cleveland Guardians series coming up in just a moment. But let's pause for just a second and tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. All right, let's talk about our friends over at Mando. Mando is a men's deodorant brand that is hyper-focused on every aspect of you. It's not only going to keep you, of course, smelling fresh and clean, like hopefully every deodorant does, but they also offer you an incredible option for everything. It's not just for deodorant. It's not just your armpits for your deodorant. Yeah, you can get every part of the body smelling fresh and smelling clean. The scent is geared towards you with options like bourbon leather, clover wood, Mount Fuji, Pro Sports, whatever the case may be. You're going to find the right product for you here with Mando. Again, whole body deodorant is safe to use anywhere on your body, that's created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It is clinically proven to block odor all day long and control the smell for up to 72 hours. So you can get it in 2 different styles. You can get it in a solid deodorant stick, which is formulated to stop odor before it starts, or the one that I prefer because it's a little bit easier to use is the spray deodorant. It's aluminum free and ideal for some of your harder to reach places. But it's not just about your deodorants, whether it's your spray or your sticks. It's about all of these products that are going to make you feel like you're smelling your best. And when you smell your best, you feel your best. And when you feel your best, you operate your best, whether it's at work, the game, whatever the case may be, you're going to feel your absolute best. All of their products are baking soda free and paraben free. And it's why that it is the #1 whole body deodorant formula in America. And if you're looking for some of the other attributes of it, you can continue to just smell fresh and look better and feel better throughout your day. So head on over to shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com and use the code PHLY at checkout for 40% off your starter pack. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers will get $5 off of that starter pack with their exclusive code. So continue to support the show and tell them that we sent you. You're going to smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with our friends over at Mando. All right, LinkedIn. If you're looking for a new job, it is never a harder time than right now to find a new job. And whether you are an employee looking for that job or you're an employer looking for the perfect candidate, you need to have the cutting edge, the leg up, if you will, on the competition. Because if you're a small business owner, you know that your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you want that partner that is going to grind with you just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs come in. So when you clock in, LinkedIn Jobs is going to, or when you clock out, LinkedIn Jobs is going to clock in. They make it easy for you to post your jobs, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one piece. They offer you a new feature that's going to help you write your job description for you and then quickly get that job in front of the right people with deep candidate insight. And you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either post your job for free, which is awesome. You're going to get an incredible amount of eyes on it, or you can pay to promote it, and your promoted job will get 3 times as more qualified applicants than if you do it for free. And at the end of the day, the most important thing for you and your small business is the quality of candidate. And with LinkedIn, you're going to feel confident that you are getting the absolute best. So find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. You can find your next hire at LinkedIn. So head on over to LinkedIn to post your job for free at linkedin.com/Phillies. Once again, that is linkedin.com/Phillies to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, final segment of the show here on the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365, where it's never ordinary at Bet365. All right, one final thing I want to talk about today, and I've teased this long enough, so we're going to finish with it today. When you're a really good player, In fact, when you're a great player like this player is, you get the benefit of the doubt more times than not. You get to say things that maybe a average player or a bad player doesn't get to say. And I don't mean insulting things. I don't mean harmful things, right? Like I don't necessarily, I'm not trying to I'm not saying that. I'm saying you get to say within the media, you get to maybe bash your squad a little bit. You could throw your GM or your head coach or your manager under the bus a little bit more than you could if you were a bench player or just an average everyday player. But there's a certain line that you can't cross. And I think that certain line starts with, nah, I don't want to play that position. Don't think you get to do that as a major league player, especially one who's making the amount of money that you are. So I'm looking at you, Rafael Devers of the Boston Red Sox. You have been nothing but a pain in the butt to your organization this entire offseason and into the postseason. Now, I will grant you, you're one of the best hitters in baseball. And that's why I said to start the show, you kind of get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these types of conversations, especially considering that you had one of the worst starts in baseball throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. Here's your game log for the first 5 games of the year. 3 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts. So you're telling me that in 23 at-bats in your first 5 games, you struck out 15 times? Not a great start for you, buddy. But now you're hitting 255. You've been much better as of late. Your OBP is close to 400. Your OPS is at 830. You've been a much better hitter over the course of the end of April and into May. So I will give you credit for that. But you don't get to do this. You don't get to say, my team should not bring, well, he didn't say should not bring in, but my team brought in a Gold Glove winning defensive third baseman, by the way, who's hitting better than you in Alex Bregman. You don't get to say, you brought this guy in, but I've been your third baseman for 5, 6, 7 years now. I want to play third base. Move this guy instead of me. Have this guy go play second. Because first of all, as I said, Alex Bregman is just coming off a Gold Glove level season with the Houston Astros. You, by the way, on top of that, are statistically the worst defensive third baseman in all of baseball. And in fact, you've been the worst defensive third baseman in all of baseball for 4 consecutive seasons. Your outs above replacement, garbage. Your defensive runs saved, garbage. Your ability to make any kind of play to your right, not very good. Sorry, buddy. You don't get to do this. You just don't get to do this. So you complained in the offseason to Alex Cora and to the front office and basically said, I'm your third baseman. Why is this happening? Woe is me. And now Tristan Casas, your first baseman, blows his knee out and is expected to miss most of the season, if not all of the season. And now you're telling me, instead of being a team player again and saying, hey, go play first base, now you're going to argue about playing first base. What are we doing, buddy? This isn't the BSTN, Red Sox podcast, but I have to talk about this because, what are you doing? You're a great player. You have been one of the best hitters in baseball for the last 4 seasons now. The reality is, in a perfect world with a perfect team, you should be a designated hitter. But because they have another guy who can't play a lick of defense either when the team is at its full in Masataka Yoshida, you have to be in the field. You have a team that is one player too many having of being DHs. Kind of like the Phillies had a couple of years ago. They had one too many DHs and somebody had to play the field. So you have to play the field. You're not very good at it. You haven't been good at it throughout most of your career. So you're being asked to go play first base, which, by the way, I think a lot of people are crapping on first base because it is an easier position than third, no doubt about it. But the thing about first is it's not as much physical as it is cerebral and mental as it is about footwork and placement and taking hops and when to play the bounce and when to go out and get the ball and when to let it come to you and where your foot. It's all those things, right? You're in the play every play, especially with a runner on base. But it is a less demanding position. There's no question about it than playing third base and playing the hot corner. So you're going to tell me you've already complained about not moving out of third when you have Alex Bregman coming in to who could potentially play third and make your team better. But now on top of it, Tristan Casas misses a significant amount of time, and you don't want to go play first? And you say, well, I know this is a team sport and I'm a team ball player, but I can't just be asked to play everywhere. I'm sorry, what? You know what? This is one of those situations where if you weren't Rafael Devers, you'd be sitting your ass on the bench. But he's Rafael Devers, so he's going to keep playing because he's one of their best players. And again, as I've said, he's one of the best hitters in baseball over the last 5 or so seasons, right? Like 28 or more home runs in each of the last 5 seasons, 100 RBIs 3 times. The guy's a very, very good hitter. But I just think this is callous. This is petty and this is callous, and you can't do this as a major league player. All right, that's how I wanted to end today's show. But huge series sweep for the Phillies tonight, or this past week over the Tampa Bay Rays. Tonight they start against the Cleveland Guardians. Aaron Nola gets the ball for the Phils. He'll be opposed by Gavin Williams. This is a Cleveland team whose rotation ERA is not particularly good. The Phillies will face 3 guys with 4.2 ERAs or better, hoping for a 5th straight series victory. We'll talk about it next week. Well, actually, I won't talk about it next week. I'm going to take some time off this next week, spend some time with the family. But I will be valiantly filled in by Rich Hoffman and Jamie Lynch on Monday and Wednesday. I'll be back with you on Friday for the wrap-up of the Cleveland Guardians series and to look ahead, or the wrap-up of the St. Louis Cardinals series, actually, next week, and to look ahead to the Pittsburgh Pirates series. So I hope everybody has an incredible weekend. Enjoy your time. Go Phils. Enjoy the Phillies series against the Cleveland Guardians. I'll see you on Friday. Jamie and Rich will talk to you on Monday at 1 o'clock right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.